Mr. Roy, you're recognized.
I'll try to be mindful of time. I know we want to try to get this done and vote. I would just note, as one of the original authors of the SUE Act portion of this bill, it does have specificity with respect to targeting parole abuses, detention, releases. Is pretty specific in what it's trying to target to ensure that the attorneys general of states, like the state of Texas, who are faced with a recalcitrant federal government refusing to secure the border, have some recourse. And it's pretty actually specific in laying that out and why. And I would note, last night I was able to attend one of the balls, and one of my guests was Alexis Nungare. And Alexis came with her husband. Alexis testified in front of the Judiciary Committee last summer. She turned 28 just recently. She lost her 13-year-old daughter last July. Absolutely lovely woman. Chose life when she was a 14-year-old. Was raising Jocelyn. Jocelyn was murdered by members of a Venezuelan gang. They were very specifically released into our country by the Biden administration. There are example after example after example of this. So this bill would address that. It would address that with respect to the state of Texas having had recourse when the federal government was failing to do its job. That's what this bill would do. It is a fundamentally important resetting of the balance so that states no longer will ever have to tolerate what we've been tolerating for the last 4 years. There is no possible way to explain the extent to which the people that I represent, the people across this country, like Alexis last night, who went out, this is a non-political young woman in her 20s, a simple mom of a 13-year-old girl, and she went and put her in her bed, and then she wasn't there anymore. And Alexis got out and started campaigning. Went on the stage with Senator Cruz, President Trump. Why? Because she didn't want that to happen to anybody else. Alexis is Hispanic by heritage. Parents are immigrants. I think generations back, depending on which side of the family you want to talk about. Never, in her own words, sitting at the table in the back conference room at the Judiciary Committee, said, family never asked for anything, never wanted any benefits, government programs. They just wanted the ability to work in this country. And, I was honored to have her with me last night. I took her there because I felt bad she couldn't go to the inauguration. Obviously, we had indoors. I bring that up because it matters. I mean, we were sitting there taking it on the chin as the people of the state of Texas and other people around the country. It wasn't just Texas, Maryland, Rachel Marin right here in Maryland, Laken Riley here in Georgia. And so this bill would set out to address that problem while also then addressing the problem that we simply want to detain. And to the gentleman from Maryland, I would say, look, it's not shocking that we have situations where American citizens are afforded due process, but that due process is recognized to mean that I can be detained if I'm charged with a crime. I can be detained without bail. I can be detained and not released as a citizen. As the gentleman knows, and as we're all aware, there's nothing earth-shattering about that. I can't recall. The professor will know better than I because I haven't studied it for a while. But I think, what was it, the Bail Reform Act or whatever, had a couple different provisions in it, one of which was danger to society, the other of which was the likelihood you might not show up. And I'm just kind of thinking that maybe the fact that you're here illegally might fit in squarely into the idea that we might not believe you'll show up. And that's what you apply to American citizens. So from my standpoint, the idea that we've got legislation that is simply laying out a process by which we can detain people who are here illegally and have ICE put a detainer on them, working with local law enforcement, and say, you know what, there's going to be times in a future administration when you want to try to not detain them, very specifically, that we're going to say we're going to detain and provide greater tools and greater requirements that we detain people who are here illegally. And yes, sometimes it's based on charges. Because at some point in the balancing of interest, if you're here illegally and you're charged with a crime, and no doubt occasionally someone's charged with a crime who's here illegally who should not have been. That happens. But you're charged with a crime, I think we should look out for the interest and balance the interest of the citizens who might be at risk, particularly when an administration is so flouted the law and common sense to have released millions at any one time, including, yes, very dangerous individuals. So with that, I will yield back to the chairwoman.
Thank you.